Hello everyone. We are going to okay, distracted. All right, we are going to address the next generation science standard HS-LS1-1, which stands for High School Life Science 1-1, which is, as you can see there, construct an explanation based on evidence for how the structure of DNA determines the structure of proteins, which carry out the essential functions of life through systems of specialized cells. So, what we're really going to focus on is the I can statement. I can model the structure of DNA and describe the importance of it within cells. So we're going to look at DNA and we're going to see what it is, why it's important in our cells, why we need it. Okay, so this first slide here, what is DNA? DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. You can see where the D and the N and the A come from, DNA. What DNA does is it determines an organism's traits, okay? Traits such as eye color, hair color. And what it does, it controls our traits by encoding the instructions for making proteins. Very important. It's going to help make proteins for our body, which are going to make our hair color and our eye color. All right. We have different, I'm drawing on things. We have different types of proteins in our body. We have structural proteins, we have functional proteins, okay, that the DNA helps make for our body. Different kinds of structural proteins are keratin, which we find in our hair, our nails. They make our hair color blonde like here. That's my sister. That's me. I already drew on me. Okay. Then we also have structural proteins that DNA helps make, like melanin. That gives the pigment in our skin. That gives us our skin color. And hemoglobin is very important. Okay, here's a red blood cell here. Hemoglobin, what it does is it helps carry oxygen throughout our body on our blood cells. Okay, and then we have functional proteins, which really help in our metabolic process. One example is pepsin. Pepsin helps with the digestive system. In the stomach, you'll find pepsin breaking down different food particles that we consume. Okay, helicase you're going to find is very important when we talk about DNA replication, when we talk about transcription. Okay, helicase is very, very important. And then we also have proteins embedded in our cell membranes of our cells to help transport proteins through our cells. Okay? Transport particles throughout our cells. All right, where is DNA stored in our bodies? Okay, you might already know this. DNA is found in the cell's nucleus. Okay, here's our nucleus right here. That's where the DNA is found within our cells. Chromosomes are found within our cells as well, which is where the DNA is. The chromosomes contain all of that genetic material. Right here is what a chromosome looks like. Within that chromosome, we find DNA. Okay, a gene, another key term, a gene is a segment of a chromosome, which is made up of DNA, that codes for those proteins, codes for those traits in our body. So a segment of this chromosome will code for the proteins in our body, which make our hair color, eye color, all of that sort. All right, so again, where is DNA found? To break it down, here is our nucleus in our cell. Okay, here's the nucleus. Here are the chromosomes, which we find in our nucleus, and the chromosomes are made up of DNA. We find the DNA within those chromosomes. Okay, the structure of DNA. We say that DNA is a double helix, which resembles that twisted ladder that you see here. Double helix. Double meaning two, helix meaning that helical shape, that twisted ladder shape. And we say that DNA is made up of, the building blocks of DNA are nucleotides. Okay, and we're going to break that down and talk about what those are. But nucleotides are what make that DNA. Okay, a nucleotide. A nucleotide has 3 parts. It has a sugar, which is deoxyribose, which comes from the name of DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. Okay, so a sugar, deoxyribose. 2 is a phosphate. And the third thing is a nitrogen base. And you have 4 nitrogen bases on your DNA. Adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine. So let's take a look at this picture here and identify some of the different parts of DNA. So right here we have your sugar molecules. Okay, as you notice, your sugar molecules make up that backbone, that whole backbone of the DNA on both sides. Okay, then we have your phosphorus molecules, your phosphate molecules here, which alternate with those sugars. So you have a sugar, you have a phosphate, you have a sugar, you have a phosphate. Okay, you're going to notice that those sugars are what attach to those bases. So the last thing we have here is those nitrogen bases. Okay, here's an adenine, a thymine, a cytosine, and a guanine. And those make up the rungs of your ladder. So if you were to draw a ladder, those rungs of the ladder are all of your nitrogen bases. Okay? And your backbone of your ladder is your sugars and your phosphates. The sugars are what attach to the nitrogen bases. So that's a nucleotide. Okay, so let's take a look at this picture again. We already talked about the building blocks, the nucleotides, what they are. So if we wanted to look and say what a whole nucleotide, here we have a whole nucleotide. We have a phosphate, a sugar, and a nitrogen base. That is a nucleotide. Okay, the sugar, the phosphate, and the base. As you can see, those repeating nucleotides occur along the strand of DNA. Okay, we also have something that's very important called a hydrogen bond. Okay, hydrogen bonds. Hydrogen bonds you can find between these nitrogen bases. They are what bond those bases together. Okay, some have 2 bonds between them, some have 3. We're not going to worry about that much detail, but note that there are hydrogen bonds that bond those nitrogen bases together. Okay, complementary base pairing. And you might have already kind of noted this as we were going through the last slide. But complementary base pairing, what it is it means the nitrogen bases of one strand always pair with a specific base on the other strand. So for example, you're always going to see adenine with thymine. They're always going to pair together. You're always going to see cytosine with guanine. You will never see A with C or T with G. Okay? A is always with T, G is always with C. They always want to pair together. That's called complementary base pairing. So let's take a look at this strand here. Okay, so we have AT, GC, TT, AGG. If we want to find out what the complementary base pairing is, here's what we can do. I'm just going to blow it up a bit here so it's easier. Okay, as we said, A is always going to pair with T. T with A, G is going to be with C, C with G. A, T, C, C. Okay, that is complementary base pairing. When one strand is always going to be, one nitrogen base will always be paired with another specific nitrogen base. All right. Okay, here what I want to discuss is if we have the base arrangement, for example, just say ACGT on our DNA strand. This ACGT is going to code for something completely different than TACG will. Maybe this will code for example, maybe this would code for brown eyes in your body, which it's a lot more complicated than that, but we're just going to kind of put it that way. TACG might code for long toes. Okay, they're going to code for something completely different. So that's what makes everyone unique, is their different base arrangement on their DNA. Okay, so let's summarize again. What is DNA? We talked about DNA. It's deoxyribonucleic acid. It's what codes for our traits. And DNA helps make what? It helps make proteins. That's a very important point to take away with this PowerPoint. Okay, DNA is found in the nucleus. It is made up of repeating nucleotides. Those nucleotides are made up of 3 things: a sugar, a phosphate, and a nitrogen base. Okay, and then last we just talked about the base pairing, how A will pair with T, G with C. At all times, that's what's going to occur on a DNA strand. Okay, and here's where I got my images. I hope this video helped you, and this was Life Science Standard HS-LS1-1. Thank you very much. Have a fabulous day. Wonderful.